My name is Jensen. Let's learn some UiPath. Today we will see how we can work with the .NET DateTime in UiPath to manipulate our dates back and forth. We will see how we can convert a date time to a string, how we can add or subtract date or time to a date, how we can convert a string to a date time, and finally how we compare two dates. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel to get all my videos about UiPath and RPA in the future. With that said, let's get started. First, we will see how we can convert a date time to a string. So go to UiPath. We will find and assign. And if we want to assign a variable where we will store the value of the date and time now, then we will create it. So drag it and assign and then press Ctrl K, and we can call this one date now and call it whatever you want. We can see it down here and change the variable type from generic value and browse for types. Let me drag this guy in, search for date time, and under mscorelib 4 point something system, take the date time here. There's a lot of them, so make sure you pick the right one. Click OK, and now we can add today's or the date time of now to it, and that will just be the date time.now. So now we added the date time of now to this variable. Then we could write out this date time. So let us take a right line. And what we'll do here is that we'll just type in the date now. That's the variable up here that contains the time of now, and then to string like this. And then we will run it. And we will see down here that the default is the date, the month, and then the year, and then the time. However, actually it's the month, day, year. I think I said it the other way around. And however, there's a lot of more data stored in this date time variable. Actually, we can go to our browser and under Microsoft.NET documentation at the custom date and time format strings, then you can scroll a little bit down and you can see that we can choose a lot of different things. We can even have a tenth of a second, we can have a hundredth of seconds, and we can have milliseconds. So, and everything is actually stored in this variable, even though that it per default only prints out this. So let's try to write out a little bit of more. Say that we wanted to, let us go to this again. Say that we wanted to have like it down to the milliseconds. So right now, so then we will write out the date here, you can see that, and then the hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. So let's try to write that out. Then what we'll do here is that in the right line here, we'll make a parentheses, and then we'll in quotation marks, and then we can specify how we want to write out the data instead of just the default. So say that we want still the month, and remember month, that's with big M's, otherwise you write out minute. Then we could write out a / or we could write out like this. It's just depends what format you like. So do whatever you want here. That's your free space, so to say. And then we'll have year. And now we can write out the time. And let's just stick to the format that we got here in output. So that'll be hour, minute, second. And then we can see that in order to write out milliseconds, then we have to write out 3 Fs. And we can even specify it even further. However, this should do. So that will write a dot and then 3 Fs. And then we can run the file. And we can see here in output that we now got a millisecond as well to our date time when we print it out. So that's fine. Say that we maybe we just want to change month and days. So then we have days here, month here, and instead of this / we'll just have this stretch here, and then we will click OK, and we can see that it now changes. So you can whenever you print it out to a string, you can specify the format. We can see that the format changed here. So now it's day, month, like we told it to, and it's even with the milliseconds as well. So this one, I think you'll understand it by now, and it's a good thing to have this table, so you can easily check the format. You can also have instead of this O2, say that you only want to have the zeros away, then we can see that we can just type in a single D instead of a double D. We can go here, and then we can delete just one D, and we can see that it actually works like this. And now we have the date, the days without the zero in. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities on how to manipulate, and the easiest thing is just to try it out. And that's why I recommend you to have your UiPath open while you watch these videos, so you can make the things with me. You can easily pause the videos; they are designed for that. And then just try with some different formats here. So now let's change it back. So just to the default here. And then we will say that we want to add or subtract something. Say that we want to, so now we got today's date and time here. And right now it's the 2nd of March 2020 when I made this video. And say that we want to add a month. Then we can just, up here in the DateTime.Now, then we just have a dot. And then we can even see that, so we can add a month, like here. And parentheses and 1. So now we added a 1 to the date and time of today. And we will see it here. Check the output. I don't know what happened here. But now it's we got a date of the 2nd of April. So, and like the same, say we want to subtract something, then we'll just, in the parentheses, we will just type in a minus, like this, and then we can try to run it again. And we will now see that the output, that is the 2nd of February. And likewise, we can, let's go up here in the expression editor, delete this AddMonths. We can, in the same way, we can add hours, days, milliseconds, years, ticks, whatever. But we could try to add a year, and again, or maybe subtract 10 years. And again, it works the same. So I don't think I'll have to elaborate more on this. I think you will get it by now. Just go try it yourself. Try to subtract something, try to add to it. And now we can see that we are in year 2010. Now let's see how we can convert a string to a date. Say that we got some input. That could be from Excel or whatever program it is. And that one always comes in a string. So let me delete this right line. We will still have the date of now. And let me delete this AddYears. So now we just got today's date and time. And we have an input, and that's a string. And so we'll have an assign here. And let us take this one. And this one could be a control K, str, and we could call this maybe input. And the input of this, that is just a date. We could have that from Excel, so that will be the 13th or what about February 2019. And then go down to variables and just change this to a string. We'll use that later. And right now we can't compare this string to this date because they're in different formats. And so we want to convert this string to a DateTime variable. So then we'll have to use an assign. And usually, remember, when they come from Excel, that will be strings, so you'll use this workflow a lot, so better learn it. And so we will have an assign and press Control K, and this one could be, we could call it date input. So we'll make a new variable. So they'll go down to variables, and again, this date input, that's the generic value per default, so we need to change it to the System.DateTime, like this. And minimize it, and then we could write out, so now we can convert it. And what we'll do here is that we'll say DateTime .NET ParseExact, And then we parentheses, and we can see that we now need a function in, so that is the str input. Let me open the expression editor up here. Oh, sorry, it's easier to see. So here we will have the str input, that's our string, then a comma, and then we will have to tell UiPath or .NET what format our string is in, and our string is in the day, month, year. So that will be the day, month, year, like 4 digits. And if we had months first, then it would just be month, day, year. However, we don't here, but you can easily change it. And if those weren't forward slashes, it could be like these ones. You'll just change it, or the dots, change it. So here you'll specify the format of the input. Then we will tell something about the culture, and that is just the system, globalization, culture info, and then invariant culture, like this, and then the parentheses. So now we actually converted this guy up here, the string, to a DateTime that we can now compare with this guy up here. So this guy we have as a DateTime, and we haven't. You can see if I write out the line, there's no time up here. So if we write out the date input to string, you can see that we only have the date, and then there will be midnight, and but I'll show you that. So here, and now we get thrown an exception, and that's something you'll see quite often as a API developer. So let's try to localize what's wrong. And it says that the input is not recognized, and that's because we chose date where it doesn't exist. So if we chose instead like 20th of March, there's only 29 days or 28 days in February. So if this one was March, then it will work. And so now you will see that it worked. And we can even go down to output, and you can see that the date is here, and then, as I told you, the time is at midnight. So remember to don't write dates that don't exist. We saw that here. So now we got it to a date and time that we can. So now we can delete this right line. Now we can compare this date to this date up here. So let's drag in an if. And what we'll do here is that we can compare it. So we can say date now is bigger than date input, and what that means is that a date is bigger than another date if it is newer. So it's 20 in the year, all dates in 2020, they are bigger than all dates in 2019 and 2018 and so on. So this one will be true right here because this one is 2019 and this is 2020. Then we could have a right line, and we can say that today's date is newer than input, and we can equally copy this one over here. Have a right line is not newer, like this. So here we'll end over here. We can try it. And we can see that it is newer than the input. However, say that we wanted to add maybe or subtract 2 years from the DateTime.Now, then we could just use the AddYears, and then so subtract we'll have in the minus, so -2. Now we're in 2018, so now now the date now is not newer than the date input. We could actually maybe a better approach would have to do it right here, but let's check. And we can see that we are not newer than, so today's date is not newer than the output. That's because we subtracted 2 years. So that makes sense, right? We could also just have added it down here. So let's delete this AddYears here. And then we could just, instead of adding it to the date of now, we can just add it here in our input. So say that we want to add like 2 years. So that'll be like, instead of 2019, that'll be 2021. So now we are here as well. So we add years. We just add 2 years to it, to our input, like this. And we can try to run it. And now today's date is not newer than the input, because the input is in 2021, and we'll see that we get it here. So I think you'll get it now. Now you can also convert a string to a date, and you can compare them. And now we want to use the same approach to compare 2 dates in Excel. So I created an Excel sheet here, a new Microsoft Excel worksheet, just called, and I just made a simple example with 2 dates. So we got 2 columns here. We got a name column and a date column. So we got entry 1 and entry 2, and we got 2 corresponding dates. Let's see how we can compare those. So this one is the 25th of June 2020, and this one is the 5th of February 2020. Let's see how that goes. Close it down, and I think we'll just delete everything here. And first we'll need to read the data from the Excel worksheet. So read range down here in workbook, drag it in, and then we need to head to the workbook. So I placed mine here. However, if you placed yours another place and with another name, just point to that. I got sheet 1, and if your sheet is sheet 1 as well, just leave this, or otherwise change it. The range, I'll delete this, and then we'll have it read this range into a data table. So go out here into output, Control K. We can call this DT data, or call it whatever you want, and we can go down here to variables and see that we actually created it as a data table. So that's good. Now we need to get the data out of the data table, and a data table that just corresponds to the Excel sheet. It looks the same, it's just a database, and now we can work with it. So it will look exactly like this Excel worksheet. Let me open it. And by the way, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. That will really help me a lot. So here we got 2 columns, and what we'll need to do first is that we need to have this cell assigned, and then this one. So we need to get the data out of this cell and this cell. And this cell, this is the first row, because those ones are headers, remember? So this is the first row with data in, and because it's 0 indexed, is row 0. It's always like that. So this is row 0, this is row 1. And the column, that's just it's the column with the name date. So let's try to get the data out. We'll go back to UiPath, and then we'll drag in an assign. And here we will press Control K, and then we will have a str entry 1 that will be a string. And what we'll need to do to get it out. Now we got the value stored in this data table, so we'll just refer to that dt data dot, and then the rows. And remember, we agreed that it was the first row, that is row 0, and then the column, that's just the item, and then parentheses in quotation marks, date, like this, and then ToString. So now we get it out of Excel. It can seem a little bit counterintuitive that it looks like, and it's formatted of a date in Excel. However, we get it out to a string, but that's just how it is. You have to accept that. So now we run it, and we can see that actually we haven't done anything. Let's take a right line and write this one out here, so we can see how that we actually got it out in the right format. So let me run it again, and we go down to output, and now we can see that we got the date out, and there's no time in it. However, the time is still here. So this is at midnight, and we get the right date. So let's close this one down. So let's delete this right line again, and we can just, by the same approach, we can get the second date out. So and let's copy this and put it in here, delete this here, and then Control K, str entry 2, and then instead of row 0, that's the first row, because remember, that's the next row, like this. So this one will store the second entry here in this str entry 2. Then go down to variables, and we'll need to store these variable types as strings, because we'll use them in a bit. So now we have strings. And I strongly encourage you to open UiPath and do all these things yourself. You will learn a lot from that, and it's more easy to find out actually. So now we got them as strings. Then to compare them with each other, we need to convert them to date times. We saw that earlier in this tutorial. However, I'll just do it again so we can repetize it. And what we'll do here is that we'll create a control K, a date entry 1. So that's the date time of entry 1. And we will just do like we did before. So that'll be the date time parse exact. And our input, that will just be the str entry 1, so str entry 1, and then we will specify the format. And remember, let's go down to output, that we both got the date and the time in the format. Even though we couldn't see it in Excel, the time is still there. We can see it here when we wrote out the line. So let me open the expression editor up here. And right after the comma, put in quotation mark. And then we will have the format that's just, and that's, that was just a month, day, year. Remember to have the M's as big ones, that's month, otherwise it's minutes. And then we have a space, and then was the hour, minute, second, quotation mark. So now we specified how the input is, of what format it is, and that's just this string. Then we'll have the comma, and then we will have the provider. That will be the system, globalization, and then the culture info, and then invariant culture. Be sure to have this right. And now we converted this string to a date time. So, and then we can see what's wrong here, and that's the date entry 1. We need to change this one here from a generic value to a date time, like this. So that worked. Let's just to convert the second string here, the str entry 2, to a date time. So let's convert another string. Oh, sorry, that wasn't it. It's this one. So copy this and delete this guy here and control K. Now we create another date time variable. That will be the date entry 2. And what we'll need to do here is that we'll only have to change one thing. So go up to expression editor and str. So we'll convert str entry 2 to a date time. And again, go down to variables, change it to date time, like this. So now we got 2 date times, and we can easily compare them like before. So we can drag in an if, and we can ask if date entry 1 is bigger than date entry 2. Remember, that is if date entry 1 is newer than date entry 2. And then we can have a right line telling us the date. If that is true, then date entry 1 is newer than date entry 2. And similarly, if that is not true, then date 2 entry is newer. So we can just write date entry 2, or we can actually just write entry 1 and entry 2. However, date 2 entry is newer than date entry 1, like this. So let's try that, and let's just inspect the data and to see where we suspect that we want to go, and then we can. So here, this one is newer, so entry 1 is definitely the newest, and that will be that this is true, and then date entry 1 is newer than date entry 2. So let's try to run it. And we can see here that date entry 1 is indeed newer than date entry 2. We could try to change it here in the Excel sheet. We could just let us just open it and say that this is just 2019. Then now entry 2 is newer. So let's close this one down, and let's see that we go to the other side of the tree, of the if tree. So now we're here. Now data entry 2 is the newest. Let's see if that here data entry 2 is newer than data entry 1. So that worked. That was quite a longer tutorial than we used to. However, this is an important topic. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel to get all the new videos about automation and RPA and UiPath. With that said, have a good day. Bye bye.